Okay, so let's go ahead and get going here. So, how are you guys doing? I mean, is this concept coming up? Is it catchy, or you want me to change the pace? How is it going on? Are you guys practicing it at all? I want you guys to practice at least 2 hours. The formula I gave you, that really works well. So, okay, so whenever you reboot, the system should remember it, the drives which are being used, and wherever it's mounted. So how do you check that? You type df-h. Okay, so we worked last time. We worked with sdb, and we made a partition out of it. Where is the partition here? Yeah, so sdb1. Okay, so we made a partition out of it, and then sdb1 is being used over here. Okay, so let me just make this a little bit bigger. So we are dealing with fdisk so far, right? Okay, by the way, what I did was I put up, um, let's see here. Here's the assignment here, okay? You go in here and you connect to the server. This is the IP address of the server, and type in your first name. Remember a few weeks ago you guys gave me your name to be used here, so I put that name here, and yeah, you just connect here. Let me show you how you do it. You copy the IP address and put it in here in putty, and type paste here. Okay, and you could save this here as assignment. Okay, it will open up, and this Okay, so it will open up and put in your name and put in the password. Okay, so side chat me for your password. I will give you the password for I think the app password I set it is individually for all you guys. So go ahead and log in here, and here it says that the assignment is in this folder here, right? So go ahead and go there. So clear cat temp assignment, and here are the assignment questions here. Okay, please go through this and finish it. It's open book, do whatever you want. I want to see you complete this. And so what will happen is actually I will share this with the recruiters, and I'll also put in the study log here. Anytime you're doing any kind of study, go ahead and put that in here so that I could keep a track of your study logs. Okay, and that thing will be shared with the recruiter, and then maybe like a month or a month and a half from here I will have a couple recruiters join the call, and they will talk about what they're looking uh, I mean what kind of jobs and the skill set they're looking for. Okay, so okay, so let's see here. You guys did hear me there. Okay, good. So please complete the assignment. You could do it as a group study or whatever works. Okay, as long as you complete this, I will be really happy. And this is going to actually help you. And then maybe this week, week of 21st, we will start working on the resumes, and then I will give you how to start building the resumes. By the time we end with the class here, you should have like a full functioning resume. Okay, and everybody do me a favor. I think a couple person already sent me the resumes. So if you have not sent your resume, just let me know. And if you don't have a resume, let me know too. So that's okay. Just let me know if you don't have a resume, then I will work from the scratch on it. So I will start the resume in the group. Then I will work on one-on-one with you guys to complete the resume. Okay. And always remember, these days don't put your address, anything on the resumes anymore. Just put down name, phone number, and email address. That's more than enough. Until you get really hired, then you could put down, the address and all that. So I'm gonna exit this. Okay, so let's go into the folder Chicago, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the folder Chicago, and I'm gonna do ls. So these are sometimes the default directories they have there. When you mount something new for the first time, you will see that. But I'm not worried about that. So what I'm gonna do is lsfnl, clear it, and let's see here. So we have only 4 people joining, huh? Let me put it in a chat here if anybody else is joining. Give me 1 second. I know Salman is now going to join, and Austin is not there. Okay. All right, so let's continue. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some files here, okay? Touch file 1, file 2. Before that, let me remove everything here. So now I'm going to type touch file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, and hit enter here, okay? And if I do ls, I have 4 files here, right? So I'm going to cd it, clear it, or do df-h. So what is happening here is the 4 files, where did we create the 4 files? In the Chicago folder, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmount it. Umount Chicago, and hit enter. If I type df-h, what will happen is so I'm unmounting a disk, and I see the oldest mount point being used. Yeah, go ahead. You got a question? Okay. So what I'm going to do is so what I did was I created some files in there, right? Okay. And then if I do ls, there are 4 files in there. Good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmount it. And then if I do dff-h, the Chicago folder is gone. It's not mounted there anymore, right? But if I do clear ls-ld slash ls-l, so the Chicago folder is still there, right? So let's go in the Chicago folder. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cd Chicago, and if I do ls, the files are missing. Can somebody tell me where are the files now? Anybody? Where are the missing files now? So what happened here is the missing files are still sitting in this drive here, dev/sdb1. So here we are in a Chicago folder, right? But at this moment the folder is on the slash root. Okay, but what do we do that here is we use the Chicago folder as a mount point, or as a window to look into the hard drive. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do one thing here. I'll remount it the Chicago folder, mount -a. Okay, so the files are missing, right? So where are the files sitting now? The files are data is sitting on def/sdb1. Okay, so we can go to def/sdb1 directly, right? So what we need is we need a mount point. Okay, if I type mount-a and if I do ls here, I have to get out of here. And if I go into Chicago folder again, if I do ls, the files are back. Because now the Chicago folder is being used for SDB1. Okay? Who is not confused? So everybody is confused, right? Yeah, I expect that. Because it is a little bit tricky here. You need to understand what is going on. So what I'll do is, I'll give you another example here. I'm going to unmount Chicago. Okay, let's take a look here. df-h is there, right? So I'm going to unmount it again. Unmount Chicago. U-mount, not unmount. So what is happening here is, let me copy this part also so that you know. Okay, you mount Chicago, right? So what I could do now is, let me create another folder called mkdir / New York and hit enter. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount SDB1 into New York folder. So if I go into New York folder, what should I expect here? Come on, you got it. Let me know. Come on, guys.
It should be an empty list, I think. It should have New York in there, the directory.
Yeah, I'm in a New York directory now, so what should I expect in there? Okay, look
Would it
here.
have the four files that we created earlier? The file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4?
Yep, very good.
Okay.
You should see all the files in there. Uh, what?
Where are
CD.
the files?
Oh, I mounted a wrong drive, guys. It should have been SDB1. Okay,
Yeah,
so
SDO. Yeah.
you mount. I'm gonna do a mount hyphen A. DF hyphen H. Okay, so it's back wherever it's supposed to be. Now what I'm gonna do is U mount Chicago. Uh, U mount Chicago. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount SDB dev slash SDB 1 mount, and then I'm going to mount it to New York. CD New York ls. See, all the files are there. So here, in terms of what the folder is being used here in this context, the folder is using nothing but as a view window. Okay, so it doesn't matter what folder is it. It could be like an absolute folder buried 10 times into some other folder. It doesn't matter as long as it's mounted in here to the partition or the drive, whatever drive you have is going to work. See, if you do df-h, now you see SDB1 is mounted to New York. Okay, so I'm gonna CD here. MKDIR New York. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is mount and then I do clear or ls. Okay, so does it make any sense here? Stop me if you are confused, but I think one of you got it, so it is not that difficult here, believe me. So let me copy this also. Yeah, you got a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. I probably have this deep in my notes. Can you remind me what mount and unmount was again? It was just it's moving or it's copying?
No, mount is the folder. Mount command.
Okay.
What we're doing is we are mounting. We
Okay.
are making the window for this SDB1 New York. So we use the mount command to, it was mounted onto Chicago, now it's mounted onto New York.
It means we are attaching the that can we say it is attached to that directory or that path?
Yeah, you could definitely say you are attaching it to the directory. Yep. Definitely. So let's see here in the Windows context, what would that be? You have a C drive here, right? C drive is reserved in this scenario, like SDB1, SDA1. This is kind of reserved here. Normally, you don't mess around with this, okay? But if you have other drives in here, it would be different drive letter name. Okay, so I don't know how should I be able to change any drive letter. Yeah. So here's the thing. When you mount it, you could mount it to any directory, flat out. So here it was mounted to Chicago. Now we mounted to New York here. Okay, so I'm going to give it a gap here a little bit. Um, So what is happening here is, if this is a physical directory, you could take it out from here and connect it to another Linux computer, and then you could mount it on another whatever the folder you have there. This is meaningless. The name of the folder is meaningless. You could create whatever folder you have as long as you mount it. Okay, so let me unmount this and then mount it somewhere else. To unmount, you have to get out of the directory, umount New York. Okay, if you do dff and h, sdb1 is not there, right? So let's mount it to some other folder here. So if you do ls here, I told you one time that mnt is a blank folder. cd mnt. So it's usually a blank folder, built-in folder for mounting the external drives here, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is mount /dev/sdb1 mnt. And if I go into mnt, what should I expect?
The dev-sdb1.
But if I do ls, what should I expect here?
What is there in the SDB1 will see that.
Very good. Now you get it. Like you could take this and beat it around the bushes, however way you like it. Okay. So wherever you're mounting this is meaningless. The data you have in here is what is it important. See, it's the same data and it's mounted to MNT. Okay. This is, guys, I'm telling you, LVM is very, very important. Disk management. All you have to do is practice, practice, practice. Okay. You come into the class and if you don't practice, I cannot help you. You guys have the chat. You guys have the resources. You guys have the video. You have access to the same exact operating system. This is exactly what you will be doing at work, okay?
But Zafar bhai, even if we won't mount it, we can access the directory right directly without mounting also.
Let's try it.
And if not, what is the purpose of mounting then? Why we have to mount it?
Let's try it then. I have to be out of it. So you're telling me if I could CD in here directly, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, CD.
Can we see the content of that?
So it says it won't allow you to do that.
Oh.
You could do it in //dev, and then the moment you try to go into SDB, it won't do it. And CD SDB1, it won't do it. So you need to be a directory here, okay?
Oh.
So if I do mount -a, is gonna, what is it now? If I do mount-a, what is it gonna do now? What directory is gonna mount it to?
A is for hidden directory, right?
No, 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 no. That is the for see these are the switches, right? This is the command, and this is the switches. So every command switch is going to be different. You're thinking about ls-a
Yeah.
for ls command because it's hidden. Over here, mount-a is what? Mount all.
Oh,
So if you want to read more about the command, you type man and hit enter, and it will give you every possible thing. It says mount-a, and then you could give the options here. So let's see what mount-a is going to do. Uh, mount-hva means all.
all.
Mount all the file system of the given types mentioned in fs tab. Okay, we went into fs tab last week, right here. Make an entry into fs tab. Okay, where did I start talking about fs tab? So where is the fs tab file here? The fs tab file is in mount from, okay, so my bad here. The location of the, make the entry into fs tab file, and the file is /etc fs tab. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. I'm going to go vi/etc/fs tab, and these are the permanent entries in here. Okay, this is what it will look into when it's rebooting. When the system goes down, it unmounts it. It gracefully unmounts all the drives, turns them off, and then the operating system goes down. When it's coming back up, the system comes up, and it reads the fs tab file here. Okay, so the
Okay.
reboot, the system file is missing. Okay, make an entry into fs tab, mount. So mount-a, if it's not already mounted, so you do df-h, right? And somebody said all of a sudden their drive is missing, and you ask them which drive is missing. They say sdb1. So what you have to do is you have to go in here and go into sdb1. Okay, and you do see the drive is mounted and everything, right? So what you do is you do mount-a. So without rebooting, it remounts it for you. Okay, what is it actually doing is it's going through the fs tab, and it's mounting everything for you. So whatever is missing here, it will go ahead and mount that for you. You could see it now. See, the Chicago was missing here before, right? And here is it was missing here. So Chicago was in the etc fs tab file. So it went in there and copied that for you. Okay. So it's a little bit tricky, but once you get the concept here, I'm telling you guys, don't miss this opportunity. You're learning Linux, and there are not many people out there who has a skill of Linux, and even who has a lower level of Linux skills, employers are willing to pay you at least $50 an hour. In fact, even in this economy, I'm getting calls, every so often. I got a call from Arizona, for American Express, and I always keep getting call from the government, the military contracts. I even got a call last year from NASA, but I didn't go. It was somewhere in like Alabama. It's very far off, remote side. I just couldn't move there. So I'm telling you, if you get a call from CIA to work for as a Linux and into security, whatever. By the way, if you want to get into security, this is where everything is at. You need to know Linux. You won't be able to make it into security, which will be little bit higher paying than Linux job itself. It won't be too much. If the Linux job is paying you, for example, 100,000, a security job will pay you 115. But you need to be really very good in Linux and all that. Okay? And all the serious applications are running on Linux. Okay? So I don't have to tell you, you could do your own research. But I'm telling you, it's going to be a little bit painful. Just do exactly what I'm showing here. Don't go and look into any other place here. What I'm teaching now is I'm telling you guys how to balance the bicycle, how to maneuver it and all that. Once you're not worried about riding the bicycle or learning to how to ride the bicycle, that's it. You're on your own. You could definitely take your skills and then apply it somewhere else. It will be really, really beneficial for you. Okay, so what else? Okay, so I think everybody got the message, but give me 1 second here. Okay. File system. So here's what is called mount from FS tab. So make an entry into the FS tab here, right? So what is this known as? Making entry into FS tab is referred to as persistent with reboot. So if you get somebody ask you, how do you make it persistent with the reboot? How do you make a mount point persistent with the reboot? You have to say make an entry into FS tab. That's it. Okay, good. Wanted this file location. Okay, good. So now what we're gonna do is there are several other ways we could mount the disk here. Okay, let me clear this. vi/etc/fs tab. So the way we are using it here to mount it to a Chicago folder is using the name here, right? We are using the device name. What we could do also is we could also use the UUID here. Okay, see this alphanumeric number here? this could be the only one number in the world. There cannot be any other number associated with this here. So UUID stands for Universal Unique ID. Okay, so let's see here. Let's talk about UUID. So UUID. So this is universal unique identifier. Okay, so how do you find out a UUID of a device? So I'm going to clear this. To find the UUID of a device, you type BLK ID. This stands for block ID, and hit enter. So what is happening here is giving you a alphanumeric number for all your devices here. Okay, so which one are we interested in? We are interested in dev/sdb1. Okay, this is the UUID we need. Okay, so once we got the UUID, what I'm gonna do is, it gives you actually a little bit more information here. It gives you the UUID and what kind of file system this is. It says ext4. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go ahead and unmount. I do dffnh. I'm gonna unmount Chicago. Okay, dffnh is gone. The Chicago is not there anymore, right? I'm gonna do vi etc fstab fstab. Okay, in here what I'm gonna do here is just follow this line here, how this line is showing up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this part. I'm gonna insert it, and I'm gonna paste the UUID. Okay, UUID need to be in the double quotes. So just copy and paste it. What we replaced is, by the way, here I did a mistake here. So what you do is, you copy the file first. Okay, you copy the line, and I think I have never mentioned this here. If you put a pound sign before the line, it becomes unreadable. Okay, so here's the thing. What I'm trying to show you is, it's a good practice to copy the first line, copy the line, and then paste it and uncomment the line you're working on. Why is it important? Because if you made a mistake, you could go back and take a look or change it back. Okay. So this is where your VI editor skills comes in. Okay, I didn't show you VI editor for nothing. Make sure you know how the VI editor is working and all that. or at least practice couple times. Yeah, you should be able to move along within the files just fine. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do before that, let me copy this. BLK ID U mount and make entry in FS tab using UUID. Okay, and then let me copy this part here. So it's a good practice to copy the you keep the old line here in there. Okay, it's a good practice. Okay, I'm gonna clear this. If I do DFF and H, Chicago is not there, right? How do I mount the disk without rebooting? What is the command, guys? The command is mount -A. Okay, if I do DFF and H now, I should see Chicago mounted. There you go. Chicago is mounted. So why is UUID important here? Sometimes if you're running some kind of critical application and it's using UUID, then it's really matter that you use UUID. So when you're building a build from the scratch, you will just work with your team and decide what you're gonna be using here. Okay, I have seen both 50% chance times that the UUID is being used uh, as well as the mount point is being used. Okay, now there is another way you could do this is mount it using the label. Mount it using the label. So mount the disk. All these I should have highlighted this. These are all little topics within this big topic here. So this is unmounting the disk and to see the disk and mount point being used. Okay. Okay, so it's a mount from FS tab, mount -A, or you reboot it, okay? and dismounting file location. Okay, and then here I'm gonna say also mount point change to. Okay, it doesn't matter where this is mounted here. Okay, good. Now this is UUID. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the label, mount using label. Okay, so I'm gonna type here mount, MOUNT using label. Okay, so I use mount using label, right? So let's see here. Okay. So how do we know what is the label for the disk? Okay, so what we have to do is we have to create one. Okay, so if you do BLK ID. Okay, so here you see this is type, and nobody is showing you the label information, right? How do I label? I know that. How do I find the disk name in LSBLK CD parted F disk? Okay. Parted slash dev slash SDB1. Okay. So if you do BLK ID, the label will be showing up here, so it's not being used as much. But how do we create a label? First, let's create a label for the disk here. So what I'm going to do is E2. The command is E2 label, LABEL, and then you have to give the name of the device, SDB1. What is label here anyway? It's just the tag. Okay, it doesn't have too much significance, but it is just the name of the tag. And then I'm going to give the name SDB1 to something like ZMPT underscore data. Okay, suppose if this is a data disk, I'm giving it a name. Okay, and if I hit enter, so it took the name. If I do BLKID, and do you see the name there? Okay, here. In here, it says label equal ZMPT data. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, somebody's calling me. Okay. So I copy the label. Okay, and vi/etc/fs tab. Before I forget, let me copy all these commands here. Okay, E2. Okay, so the label is created there, right? So okay, so the label is there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into vi/etc/fs tab. Okay, I'm gonna copy the label here. Okay, in putty, if you just highlight it, it will copy it for you. You should have noticed by now. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is let me go ahead and copy this here, escape, and then I'm going to copy the first line here. Okay, y, this is smaller to deal with. I'm going to do P to paste it. Okay, and then I'm going to uncomment this. The proper term for this is uncommenting. Okay, and then I'm going to do copy this here, and then take my arrow up here, and then I'm going to right click, it will paste it for me. Okay, I don't need this, so I kept the old line. Okay, it's a good practice to keep the old line. So what I did here now is I am using the label ZMPT data. So why, and then I'm going to use this here. Why is this going to do this here? Because system has associated the label with this UUID with this device drive. Okay, all three information are there, so it's just using one information to mount it for you. You see the three information here, right? dev/sdb1, the label, and the UUID. Okay, so what I'm going to do is df-h. Before that, let me copy this because I don't want to forget it. Okay, so I'm going to do df-h. So the Chicago is there, right? So I'm going to unmount it. U mount. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, if I do df-h, Chicago is not there anymore. I'm going to do mount -a and hit enter, and if I do df-h, and you see Chicago is back. So now we have proof that we have used a label ID to mount the disk and make it persistent in the FS tab here. Okay, good. So we are moving along really good. And what I'm going to do is we're going to have to increase the inodes. If I do dff and I, what are inodes? So inodes. So inodes means each file. So how many files? Inodes, in other words, here it says you could have 528,288 files on one single disk. It doesn't matter. If the size of the disk is if the disk is not full, okay, but there are not enough inodes, you will get the message that the disk is full or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the CD Chicago. I'm going to create about 500,000 files in here, okay? So don't worry about this command I'm going to use. I'll show you a little later. This is actually a script command. df-i. Okay, so if I do ls, I have a lot of files in here now. I have more than 200,000 files in here. You see? ls-l, and I do wc word count. I will tell you how many files you have. I mean, how many lines you have in there. Okay, so 248,405 DFF and I. So I need to suck up all the inodes here. I'm creating blank files here, guys. Don't sweat on this too much. Okay, I don't have any more inodes in here, right? Let me clear this. Okay, sorry guys. So, okay, so if I do DFF and H, regular one, DFF and H, it says only 1% of the 8 GB is being used, okay? But if I do DFF and I, there is no more files being used in here. I mean, there is no more inodes available on this disk here because the file doesn't have enough information to suck up any disk space. Okay, so if I do what do I do? If I do touch file 1, okay, it's doing that here, right? I think file XX. Okay, it took file 1 because it rewrote the file 1. Okay, if I'm creating a new file here, it says no space left on the device. Why is it saying that? Because I'll explain you why is it saying that. Extending inodes. So for demo, before that, let's see here. I used up all the Okay, so the inodes are the files. The is it a number associated with each file here, right? So what will happen is the disk space allows so many files to be on the disk. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, so let's take a look here. If I could find a picture. There's a lot of there's a lot more to inode than what I'm teaching here, but you don't need to worry about that. I'm not making you guys the Linux scientist or whatever. uh, so I'm gonna put it on my simple terms here. A disk by default allows inodes on the OS allows Linux OS allows Linux OS by default allows inodes on the disk to be certain size. This is independent of the actual disk space being used by this is independent of actual disk space being used by file. Okay, if the disk runs out of inodes, then the no space left, then you get error. Okay, so this is the error you'll get, no space left on the disk here. Okay, but the disk is not that much used. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use the size of the inodes here. Okay, so no space is left on the device. Okay, so now increasing the size of the inodes. So what you would do is you unmount Chicago, and if you do DFFNH, it's not mounted there anymore. So now what is going to happen is I'm going to run the command mkfs.ext4. Okay, this is being done at the moment when you're creating a file system. And I'm going to do -n, stands for number of inodes. Okay, and then I'm going to make it 1 million. 10,000, 100,000, million. 6 zeros, right? Slash dev slash SDB 1. So what is going to happen is all data will be gone. All data on the disk will be gone. Okay, that's the backdrop. You normally you do this at the time you are making the MKFS. But I want to wait and show you at this moment here because I want you guys to know the risk involved in here. The data will be lost. So what will happen is new UUID will be created and all data will be erased. Okay, so if you do clear, if you do BLK ID, the ID is also clear. The ID is also gone too. BLK ID. All right. If you look at this here, the new UUID and BLK. So new UUID will be created. All data will be erased. Label will be gone too. And all data will be erased. Okay, so let's go back into FS tab and then put it back. I'm going to go into VI/etc FS tab. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back in here, put a pound sign here, and then take a pound sign out of here. All right. See, now you see if you have made any mistake, you could go back and then keep the look at the old information and bring it back here without any major headaches. Okay. Now, if you do mount-a, so what should I expect here? Mount-a. The device Chicago should be mounted or should not be mounted? Anybody?
Mounted?
Very good. You see Chicago is there. But if you go in there, Chicago, all the data is gone. So this is not a preferred thing you would do. So when you're dealing with some kind of application or somebody like that, you should be able to determine how many inodes you need beforehand. If somebody tells you and comes and tell you that go ahead and increase the inodes, okay? You just don't do that. Okay? If you take somebody's word and increase the inode, all data will be gone, and more than likely you will lose the job. Okay, so this is very risky procedure, and don't just do it. Make sure you're doing it beforehand. Okay. Then again, there's a backup also, so it's going to be a little bit headache to bring it back from the backup. But if the application team didn't set up a backup, then they are dead in water. So somebody from the application team is going to get fired, and then you probably will be, your job will be at risk. So here's the thing here. Being a Linux admin, you have a lot of power. You actually have a root access. Okay, some of the managers Even the CEO doesn't have the access, root access to some of the systems here because of the SOX compliance. There is a law in the United States called SOX compliance. It is really highly regulated, especially if the company is issuing the stocks, the public stocks, because the company is a public now. So all those compliance have to be met, and you don't get to see it, but they are internal auditors. They are running through all these things here from time to time, and they would go through all this here, and all the activity is monitored. Believe me, every command, everything is monitored, no matter what level you are. Okay, so you just have to use a common sense, use your skills, practice it, and work in the team. When you start working here, just don't go and do everything on your own. Check with somebody. Okay, first Google it, find out what it is, and then check with your teammates so that you don't embarrass yourself too much. So yeah, go ahead. You have a question? Somebody have a question? Okay, no question means
Yes, I have.
what? Hello?
I have two questions.
Yes, please.
The first one is if I create different partitions in my drive and I make IDs and passwords, can somebody can still see the main drive and look into the files and different partitions?
A regular user should be able to see the partitions, yes. But root is the one. All these things we are doing, a lot of things are restricted to root by default. So we're going to learn in administration. When I start the administration, we'll see who has what level of access, okay?
My second question is if I'm working in a file and suddenly the powers goes out, what will happen? I lose all that the work, or
Most of the servers are in data center and they have like huge generators. Here's the thing. If you get a job, if somebody is going to offer you a job and they have like less than 500 servers, don't take that job. It's a pain in the butt. Okay, most of the places they'll be calling on, they would have at least 5,000 servers, and it's a data center here, right? Have you guys ever heard about data center?
yes.
Yes, a data center. This is the Google data center or whatever, and this is what it looks like. See, these are all the servers racked up in there, rows and rows and rows. When I work for Apple here, this is what it exactly looked like. Thousands, thousands and thousands. You could get lost in there. In fact, why don't you guys watch this video? Google data center, just put it in there. 1%. Okay, yeah. Put it in a Google, put it in a YouTube, and type in a Google data center, and then you will get a tour here that what is going on. Right here it says inside a Google data center. It's a short video, about 5 minutes. And what they will do is they'll make sure everything is up and running all the time. It doesn't matter. The whole world would be collapsing on the sides here, but the data centers will be the last thing to go down, because they invest billions of dollars, billions of dollars. And what is Amazon, AWS, the cloud, this cloud, that cloud is nothing but all these data centers here, huge data centers. It's just not on the little guy's premise. Is the bigger guys, the bigger companies, they're taking up all these things here. You still need the hardware. This is where all the hardware is going into. It's like a huge factory. Most of the
But
time,
not everybody have the access to that.
no. Even I don't have access to data centers. People, I mean, if you get a job to work in a data center, um, yeah, here, the one I worked at. The Apple data center I worked at is so next thing what I'm going to do is we have on our disk we have the uh, so far uh, we have the ext4 partition, right? What kind of partition we had? ext4. I already went over the partitions type, and xfs is the one which is being used all the time. This is the ext4 partition. So but we are using xfs a lot more here. Okay, so all right, for the visual purpose, it gives you the good visual here. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to create another partition. I'll just say multiple file system, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve out of 16 GB, 8 GB. I'm going to make another 4 GB. I'm going to make another 4 GB. So what would be the disk now? What would be the disk name?
It would be SDC1.
Okay, dev slash what S?
SDC1.
SDB2.
Very good.
SDB2. Okay.
Okay, so we're dealing with this puppy here. SDB2, and then we are restricted to only SDB2. And if we have another hard drive, then it will be SDBC. So I'm going to make this 4 GB, and I'm going to make it XFS partition. Okay, let's take a look how we're going to do this. So all right guys, I want you guys to do the group study, okay? Please, if you have time, put it in a chat, and the more you study, the better it gets, because I don't want you guys to go through all this and then you at one point you get exhausted about this and then you give up. So I am here to help you, and you will get all the help you could think of. Okay, my final project for you guys is to get you guys the jobs. Okay, so, and that is gonna be not very too difficult. Okay, just put in some effort on your own, and then ask for the help in the group. Okay, so we're gonna make it a XFS partition here. Okay, so let's let me get out of here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do fdisk slash dev slash sdb. Okay, I'm still gonna use sdb, and I get M for menu, right? So I already know P, M for menu. It will give you me the menu here. So I need print partition information. So it will give you the existing partition information. Okay, and here it says the disk size is 17.2 GB. It's actually 18 GB, right? Or 16 GB. Wait a minute, why is it saying? I thought we made it 16, right? It's a VirtualBox being. I think I'm gonna ditch VirtualBox one of these days here. Okay, so here's the thing here. It's giving us wrong information here because the VirtualBox is not being accurate here. They're providing a free version, so that's why it's not that good. But it's been good enough for us to use for this class here. So don't worry about this. Okay, so we have out of 16 GB we used 8 GB here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 GB now, and it's telling me that it's dev slash sdb1. So if I want to create a new partition, I would do new. Okay, I would do n and hit enter. It says new partition, and then which kind of partition I want to make it. I want to make it a primary partition, P, and hit enter. Okay, and then what is the partition number? Okay, so it's not giving me partition 1 anymore because this is partition 1. Because why? This is the number sdb1 is partition 1. So you have number 2 to 4. So 2 is the default, so I'm going to hit 2 and enter. Okay, and then I'm going to simply hit enter here. Okay, so what is happening here is the partition, it starts from 0 and it ends at some place. Um, the starting block is 2048, and this is what is ending here. Starting from this, this is the starting point and this is the end point here. Okay, wherever it stops here, this will be the starting point for the next partition, and this from here to here is available. Okay, so the default is this much here, so we are putting this partition right next to each other. So we're gonna say let's use this part here, and out of that part we're gonna carve out only 4 GB. Okay, so here you're gonna type plus 4G. Let me go up and see what I did here. So here I put down plus 8, right? So I'm going to do plus 4 down here. So plus 4, and you have to do capital G, or else it won't recognize it.
It's showing the ID 83. What is that?
Where? On my screen or your screen?
Your screen, sir.
Where?
Where that it says start, ends, blocks, and ID.
First sector? Where?
It's it said that
Oh, this one? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
It's gonna use ID 83 because this is the default Linux system. Okay? I'll hit enter. And there are a lot of stuff out there. Okay, I'm not gonna show you everything there. So 4 GB partition 2 type is 4 GB. So I'm gonna do P and hit enter. See, now the second partition has been created. So I'll tell you what ID 83 means. So you go M here, and then L. If you do L, list known partition types. L. Okay. So the Linux system supports all these partition types here. We're not worried about that. So ID 83, it says Linux here. And then what else we're going to be using is swap 82. Okay. And I would say don't worry about all this here. You have to be a scientist, Linux or the computer scientist, to be worrying about what all this here. This is where it's all started. It used to be FAT32
Yes.
back in the day. If you are if you start remembering things from 80s, these are the things that used to be back then. But technology have evolved here. Every company try to make their own impact. There was some Compaq, there was some IBM stuff here. IBM, DOS. Don't
Yes.
worry about it. Okay, well, we're not going to worry about LVM. Is the one we're going to be using it little later. Okay, so then now what we're going to do is I'm going to write and exit. If I just quit, it's not going to write to the operating system. It won't remember it. So I'm going to just W and enter. So what will happen is warning: the partition table failed with error 16. The device or resources are busy. The kernel still uses old table. So now what I'm going to do is part probe. I think we have to run this part probe here. Do lsblk. So it did took SDB2 here, so we're not worried about that. So you may or may not always get this output here. Okay, so do part probe and lsblk. If you get the error message, then you have to go back and create again. So I'm going to highlight all these things here for you guys. Okay, so you have came along so much here. So okay, we're out of time, but give me 2 minutes here. Okay, so we'll just create the file system here. So to create a file system, you type mkfs dot ext4, right? ext4. So we're not going to use ext4, we're going to use xfs slash dev slash sdb2. Okay, there you go, it's all done. And then what I'm gonna do is blkid is there, sdb, where is sdb2? Right here. So what I'm gonna do is mount sdb2. Where am I mounting to? New York. I could mount it to New York now. If I do dff and h, it's there now. See how fast I'm moving. Now what you have to do is you just have to keep practicing it. Keep practicing a few times, you will get it. It's not a big deal. Okay, and I'll mount this. Okay, and then I do dff and h. So I have I'm gonna just show these two drives. Okay, and I want to make it in FS tab, right? So I'll show you quick and dirty way to do it. Okay, clear cat etc FS tab. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line here. I'm not even going into the edit mode, and I'm going to go double quotes here, and then what I'm going to do, echo, and then end of the line. What am I doing here? etc FS tab. Do you guys agree with me? I rushed in. I shouldn't have I should have changed this here. I should have made it to SDB2 and then made it New York. But I have to go into VI again. I'll take this line off. Okay, if I do DFF and H, and if I do U mount New York, and if I do DFF and H, New York is not there, right? I do mount hyphen A. So what is happening is the wrong file system. Aha! See, this is what happens when you rush in here. So what you have to do is you have to change the file system to XFS. That's it. dff-h, and the file system is there. So I'm going to go ahead and change this here to copy this to XFS. Make appropriate entry into FS tab. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the system. Both drive should come back up here. So I'm going to say umount Chicago, umount New York. If I do dff-h, both drives are missing here, Chicago and New York. So I'm going to do init 6 and see what happens here. It should come back up here in the okay, so the New York and Chicago are visible now. Okay, I'm going to end here. We'll pick it up where we left off tomorrow, and then we'll go over it. Okay, please go ahead and go start this assignment here. At least log in here, okay? For the password, site chat me. This is the IP address, and this is how you do it. And for the Mac, if you're in a Mac, what you do is you type SSH and then the name at from the terminal, and you type this IP address here, okay? Anybody here using Mac? I think Cedric, you're using Mac, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir. That's what I was going to ask you at first. Like, yeah.
yeah. So you, wherever you are in your terminal, type this SSH, your name at, and then hit enter.
Okay.
And it will say, are you sure you want to continue? Yes. And I will ask you for the password here. So
Okay.
site chat me for the password.
Okay.
Okay, so you okay, I'm in the
Awesome.
system.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, please, I'm telling you guys, don't miss this opportunity. And if you really want to break into 6-figure salary, this is it. It can't get